All right, guys, here's another human trainer workout. So this one is all done with the handles. As bad as the foot cradle one sucks, this one doesn't suck quite as bad, but you're gonna get shaky on, right? So you can use any suspension training device with this. We just, as always, prefer the human trainer. Let's go. For the first exercise of this grouping is a push-up. We want you up on your tippy toes for the entire time. Standing more upright makes it easier. Taking a little step back makes it more difficult. We want you to drive your elbows out wide and let your body fall into a push-up position. You are then pushing your hands into the straps to drive your body up. We are fighting for a straight, neutral spine the entire time. We will then take a little step forward, face your palms towards each other, and go into a fly. During this exercise, keep your elbows a little bent. Drive the elbows out wide and back behind you before pulling back to the middle. This exercise is very difficult. To make it a little bit safer and easier, you can go with a staggered stance or take a little more step forward and get a little more upright. We will then flip around into a row. For the row, we are going to put all our weight and lean back on the straps. Again, the more upright you stand, the easier. The farther you walk under the straps, the more difficult. We can also do this one of two ways. You can have your palms face down, which will get your traps a little more, or have your palms facing each other the whole time, which will get your lats a little more. You can do one, the other, or alternate. The fourth exercise is a T-row. This is very similar to the fly, just in a rowing motion. Again, palms face towards each other, little bend in the elbows, and it's a pulling motion out away from your body. It also helps to pull your toes off the ground and stay on your heels for this exercise. There is no break in between sets on these. We are going right back into the push-up. If the strap is rubbing against your arms, simply make sure you're driving your elbows out wider to prevent this from happening. The harder we push our hands into the handles, the more we get out of this. Remember to take a step forward for the flies, as these are significantly more difficult than the push-ups. One thing we want to think about anytime we're using the human trainer, but especially when we're using the handles. When we lift weights, the weights are the moving part of the exercise. In suspension training, your body is the moving parts of the exercise. Think of your body as the machine. We're also looking on the rows for a slight pause and squeeze through the back at the top of each movement. We do not want the straps to have any slack in them. Keep all your weight on the straps and keep them tight throughout the entirety of these exercises. And remember, small changes in where we stand make big differences in the difficulty of the exercise. Don't forget to breathe. And again, there is no rest between sets. Third round and the last round. By now you may be feeling it in your hands and forearms, chest, triceps, and maybe even your glutes. This is all a good thing. Also, if you're shaky, especially through the push-up portions of the exercise, that's okay. There is very little stability when using suspension training. This is one of the huge benefits of it. If you're feeling any discomfort in your shoulder through the fly, find a better position for your elbows to be in. This is the stagger stance part that can make it significantly easier. Again, through the rows, remember to keep all your weight on those straps. We are never standing up straight completely. We are always leaning back. Remember to breathe. Last exercise of the last round. Stick with slow, quality movements. And that's the first set done. After completing the push-up, fly, row, T-row, take yourself a nice 2-minute break. Here we have the seated triceps exercise. The most important part on this is finding your footing and where you need to stand. The closer we sit towards the connection point of the straps, the more difficult it is. The farther we scoot away to a certain point, the easier this exercise is. We want to simply stand up and actively drive both hands towards the ground, keeping the straps tight. Next, we have the leaning back and alternating biceps. Again, find your proper footing. The farther under the straps we stand, the more difficult. You're going to drive one elbow high and curl with that arm while actively pushing down with a straight arm with the other side. You will then come back to center and start over. As you can see, my body is rising and falling with each rep here. The majority of the work to bring my body up is being done with the curling arm. The third exercise is the seated biceps. Your footing will be around the same spot of the seated triceps. This time we are keeping our elbows high and using both arms to curl us up into a standing position. Again, our biceps are doing the majority of the work here. We want to use them to make ourselves stand. Keep the straps tight with as little slack in it as possible. We will then flip around into the falling triceps. The easiest way to think of the falling triceps is treat it like a skull crusher. Footing is extremely important on this exercise. Small steps make big differences. The farther under the straps I am, the more difficult. The more upright I'm standing, the easier. I want to keep my elbows at an elevated plane up towards my face the entire time. Again, your body's a machine. Let it rise and fall. No rest before starting over into round 2. Back to the seated triceps exercise. The majority of my work here is done through pushing the handles into the ground as hard as I can. I want my triceps doing the work here to make myself stand. Again, the closer to the connection point of the straps, the more difficult. I'll then take a step back and right into the alternating biceps. During this, try to get a nice little glute squeeze the entire time to make sure you're standing completely straight. And again, the curling arm is doing the majority of the work here. However, the arm that I'm driving down and straight is also doing work. Third exercise again is the seated bicep. The footing will be around the same spot as the seated triceps. Keeping your elbows high, use your biceps to stand up. You're probably feeling it in your legs at this point. That's okay too. Just remember, we want our biceps doing as much work as possible here. Then we flip around into the falling triceps exercise. Keep those elbows high, drive your hands back towards your head, and then push yourself back up to a standing position. Your wrist can be rotated in a little bit here. Do what feels best on your elbows. Do what feels best, and you can feel the most work being done in your triceps. We also want to be on our tippy toes with our heels off the ground the entire time. Last set, best set. Back to the seated triceps. Remember, control your breathing. 1 breath per rep here on the seated triceps exercise. Then take a step back and prepare for the alternating biceps. Really concentrate on the fact that your body is rising and falling, and your biceps are doing the work. Next, we're back to the seated biceps exercise. You have 40 seconds of work left. You got this. The higher your elbows and the harder you pull your hands towards your face, the more work we're getting out of our biceps. Then we're flipping around and going back to the falling triceps. 20 seconds of work left. As always, little changes make big differences in the difficulty of these exercises. Remember to breathe. Take a water break for 2 minutes before starting the next set. Now we're ready for the seated jumps. For the seated jumps, we're going 30 seconds of jumps with 30 seconds of rest, and we're going to go through 4 rounds. This is extremely taxing and will get your heart rate up immensely. Stick with it. We don't need to see how many times we can jump each set. We just want good quality high jumps. And again, the closer we sit to the contact point of the strap, the more difficult. The farther back we sit, the less difficult. As you jump, we're going to pull your hands in towards your body and jump as high as you can. We are looking for as high of jumps as we can get here. As you get tired, that height will start to diminish, but don't stop trying. Control your breathing through your rest periods. Your heart rate is elevated, and this is getting difficult. Slow your breathing down, control your heart rate before the next set. 2 down, 2 to go. We got this. We want to keep those straps as tight as possible as we reach the ground with our butt, and as we jump and pull the handles towards our body on each rep. Again, we want to make sure that our butt is touching the ground on each set. If you're sitting in a spot where your butt can't get to the ground, you probably need to scoot forward. Last set, best set, here we go. Keep those straps tight, pull the handles into your body, jump as high as you can. If you're on a slick surface, like wood, it'd probably be a good idea to wear some shoes here. Seated jumps are over. Get yourself a good 2 to 3 minute rest before starting the next set. Here we're going through our push-up positions. Our first one is with our arms straight. You will hold this position for 20 seconds. The farther my feet are back, the more difficult. The more straight up and down I'm standing, the easier. In this position, I'm actively driving my hands into the straps. After 20 seconds, I will then go to halfway down. My elbows are bent about halfway with the straps off of my arms as much as possible. This is an extremely difficult position, as you can see me shaking here. That's okay. After 20 seconds, we will then move to all the way down. We are driving our chest down into that push-up position as far as possible while keeping it a working position. We will drive our chest down into this position as much as possible while keeping it a working position. We will then move back up to halfway up. Again, this is a difficult one. If you're shaking, don't worry. Everyone does. We're also up on our tippy toes the entire time with our heels off the ground. Yeah, look at those arms. Then we're moving back up to arms straight. Reset yourself, regather, and again, actively drive your hands into the straps as much as possible. We are not just standing here. We are standing, squeezing our butt cheeks as hard as we can and driving those hands down. Our shoulders are pulled back as well. Then we're dropping back down to halfway down, the shaky part. Breathe through this. Don't let those straps rest on your shoulders, folks. That's cheating. Oh my. Then we're moving all the way back down, up, down out of that halfway position. Again, in this position, we want it to be a working position. You're still driving your hands into those handles as hard as possible, up on the tippy toes with the heels off the ground. Breathe through this position before you move back to halfway up. Back to the fun one. Try to keep those handles right about chest height. Breathe. Woohoo! Take yourself a nice 2-minute break before starting the next set. Our next set is a squat hold for 10 seconds, followed by a jump. We are trying to sit in a parallel squat with our elbows bent and lean back slightly for the entire 10 seconds. Jump as high as you can before immediately going back to your parallel squat. As you can see here, all her weight is put on the straps and those straps are tight. She jumps as high as she can and re-enters that parallel squat. As you get tired, it's easy to stand up higher than parallel. We really want to try to stay at parallel. As you're in your squat, take your big toe on each foot, shove it into the ground, and drive those knees out away from each other. As you jump, you're also pulling those handles into you and maybe even pushing down just a little bit. The squat portion of this gets extremely difficult. Control your breathing and fight through the difficulty. We are going to do this for a total of 2 minutes. This is difficult. She's struggling. Try to sit down towards that parallel line. We also want to get as high of a jump as possible on each jump. Again, your breathing is extremely important here. Nice, slow, controlled breathing to control your heart rate as much as possible. Keep those elbows bent and keep the knees driven out away from each other. The suck level is probably entering close to a 10 here. Fight through it, folks. It's worth it. Way to go, Lily! Take yourself a 2-minute break before starting the next group of exercises. We're almost there, folks. Here we're going the row positions, which are a lot like the push-up positions. The first one is going to be with your arms straight. Remember, small changes in your footing make big differences in the difficulty of these exercises. In this position, squeeze your butt, squeeze your abs, and make this an actively working position. For the second one, we will pull your elbows back until you are halfway up. Remember, we're keeping the straps tight and all our weight is leaned back on those handles. For the third position, we're going all the way up by driving those elbows back even more. Taking a little step forward will make it more difficult. Keep your butt tight, keep your abs tight, and remember to breathe. Then we will drop back to halfway down. During this grouping, you are going to get a lot of work done on your hands. Your hands and forearms will start to burn. Try to keep as loose a grip as you can while still holding on to the handles. Squeezing those handles to death will make you more tired quicker. Then we're back to arms straight. This is a good time to readjust your grip and readjust your footing. But remember, this is an active working position. We are not just standing there. We're squeezing our butt, we're flexing our abs, and we have our shoulder blades squeezed together. Then we will pull back to halfway up, the difficult one. To make it a little more difficult, you can pick your toes up off the ground and push through your heels. Or, as Lily is here, you can keep your entire foot on the ground. Back to all the way up. Drive those elbows back as much as possible. We can have our hands in two different positions here. By having your palms down and your hands up near your shoulders, this is going to work your traps a little bit more. If we had our hands facing each other and lower towards the armpits, this would work the lats a little bit more. Again, you can alternate between the two or pick the one you like. It's totally your choice. Back down to halfway here. Remember, we want our shoulders, our lats, or our traps doing the work. Keep the butt tight. One more 2-minute break, then on to our last set. We're almost there. Here we have the rollouts. Again, where we position ourselves makes a big difference. If our knees are directly under the contact point of the straps, this would be the default position. You're going to take yourself a nice big deep breath, set your abs hard, drive your hands away from you, and flatten your body towards the ground. Scooting forward makes it a little bit easier. When I roll out, the higher my hands are, the easier the exercise is. Also notice here, we want a slight bend in the elbow. If I scoot back to where my knees are back behind the contact point of the straps, it makes it significantly more difficult. The closer your hands are to the ground during your rollout, the more difficult this exercise is. Woohoo! So you've just completed our human trainer workout. The human trainer is one of my favorite tools in the gym, and it's something we've used for a long time. Whether you're an athlete looking to get better on the field or court, or just a normal person looking to get more fit, the human trainer or any suspension trainer is a great tool for this. Thank you for following along and working out with us, and we hope to catch you in some of our future videos and some of our future workouts. In the meantime, if you're in Lebanon, stop by the gym 24/7 or the Field Training Center to check us out.